Hey, T-Hop, thanks so much for being here.
Hey Kim, how's it going?
Going good. It's going good. So what I would like to do is I would like to read, first of all, I'm going to read your bio that I pulled off of a professional site. And then I want to cover your event planning resume that you provided. It's spectacular. But I want to give people a little bit of the person behind you, and then we'll get into more of the detail stuff. So
Okay, let's go
I
for it.
am reading this off of the BPA, Black Police Officers Association of Greater Dallas. It's a great website, by the way. And you introduce yourself as, my name is Terrance Hopkins, AKA T-Hop, which I think that's how I've always known you as T-Hop.
Everybody. Nobody calls me Terrance.
When I was looking for you in my phone to send you a message,
Right.
I'm like, I know I have him in here, but it wasn't under T-Hop. It was actually official. And it took me forever to find you.
Wow.
Okay, so you are a 32-year veteran of the Dallas Police Department. You started patrol at Northwest, where you conducted patrol and shortly got one of the first street-level narcotic task forces. You then got on a street-level prostitution task force. You became an FTO for 10 years straight and truly enjoyed training rookies. Your rookies went to jail every day and obtained more arrests than most rookies in training, resulting in excellent street experience. You then transferred to Southwest Patrol and continued to train rookies. After 20 years in patrol, you decided to come out and went to the Training Academy as a class advisor. You then got hired on as a defensive tactics instructor and then transferred over to tactical planning special events in 2012, and you have remained there since. You're on your third term as president of the BPA, and you have served by helping as many of the officers, and I might add community, as you possibly could. And you close your introduction here by saying it has been an honor working with you all. And I, as a retired Dallas police officer, would want to thank you for everything that you did in that, because this is how you make a good department. And this is how you serve your community. This right here is how you do it. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. You did that so well.
So now I'm going to get into stuff that some people, it would just blow their mind to think of the responsibility that you've had. Because T-Hop, what rank are you now?
I'm a senior corporal.
Yeah. And what rank were you when you went over to tactical planning?
I was a senior corporal.
Right. So senior corporal with this kind of responsibility.
A lot.
And yeah. And for anybody who's not familiar with that, in the Dallas Police Department, while a senior corporal is extremely important and very, very valuable, it is not command level.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not command level, but you were obviously doing command level decision-making actions here. So I'm just going to throw out some of these events. You helped with presidential visits of Bush, Obama, and Trump, Super Bowl 2011, NRA National Conference, Byron Nelson, State Fair of Texas. And when it comes to the people on this, the State Fair of Texas, that's 2.5 million people that you had to keep safe. The St. Patrick's Day Parade that has hundreds of thousands of people at it. The Christmas parades, marathons, turkey trots, NCAA championship college football, the MLK parades, the Big D half marathon. I mean, I can just go on and on and on. The Coleman Race for the Cure, Mavericks Run, Trinity River Fest, Trump protest, immigration marches, Trump Cruise rally, Confederate statue removal rally, because I want to list that there's some good stuff here and there's some stuff that, well, it all has the opportunity to go south.
Right.
But, there's some other stuff that, a lot of stuff has to be taken into consideration. So again, I want to thank you for your planning on all of this, because not only did you keep the citizens and the property owners and the business owners safe and the participants in all these events, but your planning also led to our officers being safe. You gave them workable plans. You had to create plans that the rest of the police department can still do what we needed to do. while these events were taking place. So thank you very much for that service.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it.
Is there anything else you would like to throw in there before we start chatting?
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I've had a good long career. Got to do a very special job in planning all these events, and of course, working with command staff members like yourself, who've got a great reputation in command to run events, because there's a certain level of leadership you look for when we're doing this. And, sometimes some people are too soft, sometimes people are hard, and we need commanders like yourself who handle business. And if something needed to be said, you would say it, and you're right. It's my job to put all this together, but it was also my job to hand it off to people like yourself to actually be the commander of the event, and that relationship working with, most of you guys. I pretty much work with every commander from lieutenant above in the department for the last many years, right?
Yeah. And I know that right now we're smiling and we're acting like it was all, unicorns and I don't know what else, cotton candy.
Correct.
We know that wasn't the case. And you and I actually talked recently about an event that you put a lot of planning into that didn't go that well. And well, the event itself went well. There was just some very serious issues that came up that left some scars on you and our department and our community. But as an officer that was working, without going into great detail, I want to thank you even for that. I want to thank you for everything that you have always done in the planning for our events.
Oh, thank you. And it's fine. I mean, we just had the anniversary of 7/7, and protests that I planned in Dallas. That was one. And, these things, for the most part, have gone flawlessly well. And that was the day somebody decided to take their revenge upon the Dallas Police Department based off of things they've experienced and been watching. And we lost 5 officers. And that is the one that is going to stick with me forever, and a lot of our officers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one that doesn't ever go away.
Right,
doesn't
correct.
ever go away. So as in your position as the president of the BPA, and again, thank you for that service also, making our department better for all of us. You talk to a lot of people who are considering or going into retirement. Can you share your experiences on that?
Sure. Right. They, from when they get ready to retire, and, we hold the ceremonies, and I may speak, hand them their retirement badge and all that stuff. And then, of course, there's just the transition to the next level of life for them. Very few are going into true retirement, right, where they absolutely don't do anything, but most of them are transitioning into another career. And I would say that a lot of them didn't really plan as thorough as they should have, because, now that you're going to have all this time on your hands, did I plan to have all that time on my hands? Now I have to be with my mate now, which was a small amount of time. Now it's 24/7. Then are my finances correct where I can retire and not work for anybody else if I have to? I've had officers call me asking for jobs. Do I have any leads on other jobs? To where they're in a position where they have to work. Some just want to occupy time. And then some, again, have done it the right way, and they're just going to, freelance the rest of their days and truly enjoy it. So I've kind of talked to the gamut on that one.
Yes. So it's no secret, but you are coming up on a big transition. You'll be retiring from the Dallas Police Department, but not retiring necessarily. How has that been for you? How has that thought process been going for you?
Pretty good. People like yourself, they've always said you'll know when it's time, right? So I think by the time I retire, I've kind of committed to this year's state fair. And during that time, I'll have another anniversary. That'll be my 33rd year in September. during the fair. And I've been training people up to do what I do. So now we have a 4-man team. If we hire for the next position, it'll be a 5-man team. So I've been training folks up to take over what I've done for the last 10, 12 years. So I'm comfortable with that, that we have people ready to do the job. And I've been slowly weaning myself off that platform of all the activities and pushing it to the side, knowing I can trust other people to do it. Department's kind of happy with that as well. So I'm kind of ready.
I'm excited for you. I'm very excited for you. And I like that when you're saying it, you're smiling, because some people don't smile when they're saying it. You know, they have this look of fear or trepidation, or like in the back of their mind, they know that they don't really know what they're doing, but they're leaving. And I was very excited to retire. The end of my career didn't go exactly how I thought it would go, but I'm learning that most people's, it doesn't go exactly how they think it's going to go. But I love retirement, even though I now run 3 companies, so I'm not really sure that's retirement, but I love it. I have found that I still need to serve, that I still, even though I'm very much an introvert and like to be home with my dogs and my plants and reading books and cooking and all that stuff, I find I still like to serve people. I would imagine that T-Hop is going to continue serving.
Yeah, that's going to happen. So I think, once that's in you, Kim, it's in you, it's ingrained in your fabric. So you even call yourself an introvert, but yet you still like to serve, right? Some people are totally at home serving. Some people want nothing to do with service, right? And they want to wash their hands, they're done. So no, that's kind of that's ingrained in who God made me to be. So I'll serve until I'm gone, I'm sure.
Do you have any outside of work? Because we know, okay, so as a retirement life coach, I always like people to think of what they're going to do with their time, and to make it maybe more balanced, if it's possible, if they're at a time in their life when it can be more balanced, maybe some downtime, some more time to their fitness, some more time to their relationships. Some people, it's the opposite. Sometimes it's more time to building their next company or their next career, depending upon, their choices or their nonprofit or whatever, they want to do like that. But do you have any exciting plans that you could share, that you're willing to share?
Sure. And you're exactly right. When we leave here, a lot of us are still at an age where we're just not ready to sit on the porch all day, right? In the rocking chair. So you do have to find something to occupy your time. So whether that's hobbies, right? I like to play golf, right? I'm very active playing golf wherever, whenever. I definitely like to keep my fitness up and work out. I'm open to a lot of activities. I mean, I'll go to concerts, monster truck shows, I ride my bike. So I do have a full life outside of DPD. Now, what I plan on transitioning to, I don't per se want another job. I'm kind of like you, do my own thing. So given 33 years of my life to DPD, it's fantastic. It was a long time. So now I want to do something more my speed. So I don't want to go check in somewhere from 8 to 4 again. What I'm transitioning into is consulting on what I've done for DPD for the last 10 to 12 years, which is plan all these major events. So during that time, people that I got to work with, right, in the private sector, or those folks that I dealt with, some of them kind of found out that I was going toward retiring, and some of them said, well, hey, do you plan on doing anything else? I've had some job offers, but they haven't been what I wanted. So with that being said, consulting, they asked, well, hey, can you show us how to plan a security plan for this event, that event, or traffic control plan? So that's my level of expertise. So now I shop that out to the real world to do it on my time and at my pace. So if I want to take a contract or two this month and not work next month or 2 months, I have that flexibility now.
I love that. I don't know if you remember it or not, but the Dallas Police Department let us lead Dave Ramsey financial peace classes in core. I guess that would be 2 times ago. Time is flying by. But even before that, we were leading the Dave Ramsey financial peace classes in the police department to sworn and civilian employees. And one of the conversations that we started having is, what do you want to do after you leave the job? And we would have some officers that would just say, I'm not doing anything, right? And well, we knew how good that was going to go.
Right.
And then we had other officers that definitely wanted to do something related to what they were doing, right, in the police department. And then we had others who had, totally different ideas. But I loved to see these officers realize that they are so valuable to the department and so valuable to the community. So these officers realized that these relationships mattered. And it goes back to the old saying, it's easier to get a job while you have a job than when you don't. Right. And they made those relationships work for them. And the department benefited and the community benefited from it. And then the next person that hired them benefited from it. And then the officer benefited from it after retirement. So T-Hop, have you found that officers, if they want to do something related to their law enforcement profession, have you found it works well for them to create those, or at least recognize those relationships while they're still employed by their department?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, because, it's all about planning. You should be planning your next move, right? And it's all strategy. If you want to go into, we've had people go to other police departments, right? They've gone to DART, they've gone to DISD, they've gone to the actual marshal service, they've gone over to the district attorney, the courts. So, they start filling that out, making those connections and, through other friends, right? Through other officers who have transitioned. So people are starting to strategize on how they want to do it and go into that next phase. So yeah, I've seen a lot of officers do that.
Yeah, I loved the conversations that we would have, and to see that light bulb go off in somebody's head whenever they hear, like, the auto theft detective realize that they can then be an investigator for an insurance company or another type of agency. And, just think at what some of these DA's offices get whenever they get a Dallas capers detective. They get a detective who does more in a week in Dallas than that whole entire county does in a year. Right. And not in an ego type manner, but look at what they bring to that agency. Look at what they bring to that agency. And then even the officers that go to some of these other departments, just the experience they have working for a large city and having to get reports past our jail sergeants and, through arraignment, that's a lot of experience to bring to another agency.
Oh,
that's
yeah, right. Yeah, we know with the experience level officers have at DPD, you can go to just anywhere in the country. So, we've only got, to me, really a list of 10 major cities, and we're one of them, right? So everything else is a lot smaller, right? On a lot more relaxed scale. And, an officer here that gets the training they get can go in any suburb, any other city. We talk about these guys transitioning to Frisco, McKinney, wherever. These folks may not see a murder in a year, or luckily get 1 or 2 when we deal with it daily, and just everything we got going on here. So that's a wealth of experience going to a lot of these other cities, right?
Yeah, I know it's, so when I was retiring and afterwards, I would get these phone calls of these, what look like, great jobs, right? I mean, command level jobs in these different smaller departments or schools, education, hospital systems, things like that, and you look at the numbers, you're like, oh, I would like to make that kind of money. And then you realize, oh, I'm going to have to work for that money, put a uniform back on and, 40, 60 hours a week driving there. And, T-Hop, I'm just not willing to do that.
Right.
Now, I'll work 8, 9, 10 hours straight, with my clients or learning stuff or editing videos or doing interviews or doing things like that, public speaking, and I love it. Yeah, just not putting that uniform back on. Totally support the officers who do want to do that though.
Yeah, but we did our time. Kim, you did your
Yeah,
time. So it comes
did
to,
my time.
I'm putting that down. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Done.
Yeah.
Do you know, I didn't even, and people are just shocked by this, but like, I didn't even keep my commission. I mean, nothing. I don't even have my license anymore.
Right.
People will count, well, you can do it. You can get it back. It's just 40 hours a class. I'm like, I'm not doing it. They're like,
Yeah.
you don't even take a test. You're a master police officer. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Like, are you sure? I'm like, look at me. Do
Yeah.
I look like I'm not sure?
Yeah, you're pretty sure.
But I do want to stress, though, that I really support other officers who do want to do that. And like you and I were just saying, there are communities around the country that benefit greatly from our coworkers for whatever reason who want to continue wearing the uniform. Just, I don't think they need to be looking for you or me in that uniform.
Correct. And we all have our ideas of what we want to do. Some guys want to go put on another uniform for another agency. There's nothing wrong with that. Me and you, we don't want to put on another one, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it's whatever you choose to do with the other side of your life, right?
One thing that was very interesting for me is I had some things that I knew I wanted to do when I retired. I knew that I wanted to work with plants, right? I did not want to be in management. I did not want to be in security. I did not want to make any decisions. I just wanted to water plants, carry bags of mulch out to cars, help people plan their gardens. That's all I wanted to do. So I got a little part-time job at a very nice local flower nursery, and I loved it. I loved it, right? It was kind of funny because I would be there and I was not in management. I was like the lowest person there, right? And people would walk in the front door and they would just like walk to me and ask me a question like I was in charge. And I kept saying, no, ma'am, there's the manager over there. And they would just look at me and I would like go, well, damn it. And then I would take care of the problem, right? But I loved working there. I loved it. And then I didn't want to do it anymore. And for a moment, I was like, oh my gosh, what are you going to do? And I said, what do you mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to resign. I'm just going to go tell them I don't want to do this anymore. But that's such an odd way of thinking. I'm a military brat. My dad was career military. The day after he retired from his job in the military, he did the same exact job as a civilian, the same office, the same coworkers. My boy's dad is a police officer. I was 30 years. My husband, 33 years. We don't quit jobs. You don't walk away from jobs. You get a job and you keep it. But we don't have to do that anymore. And I think that's kind of a beauty of retirement. If you've lined your life up in a way that allows this, is we can try different things. And you don't even have to work a plant store for 2 years. You can work a plant store for a day and decide that you don't like it. But we can do these different things. And oftentimes, I'm hearing from first responders that whenever they go out and get another job, they're like embarrassed that somebody's going to think that they need the money, which there's no shame in working for money if you need it. But they also are afraid that people are going to second guess them and say, oh, well, you shouldn't have left. You shouldn't have retired. Look at you out, doing whatever. Personally, I disagree with that. I coach people into doing whatever they want to do. Try things. You don't have to. You're not married to it anymore. You didn't sign a contract necessarily. With your experience talking to people that are leaving and seeing people that have left and thinking about leaving, how do you feel about that?
I think like you. I mean, to me, again, I said it, it's what you want to do with the rest of your life. Yeah, people can think, right? People are gonna say stuff about you, think what they want to think, and not even know you, Kim, right? We know this, right? But you got to live your life for you and your family. So if you want to go out and work for a nursery, work for Home Depot, which we got people that have done that, right? But guess what? What you said or did not say, but I know what you meant. We have options. So if you want to work that for 2 or 3 months and today you're done, guess what? You're able to do that, right? Because you've put your time in, you've got a pension, you've planned well, you guys are, debt-free trainers. So you've got options. You can do this however you craft it, right? And that's a good thing to be in that position. And just kind of segueing into what our young officers or just young professionals in general, it's never too early to start planning your retirement. And that's what needs to be taught. As soon as you get into the working world, you need to start planning for retirement.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely, absolutely. And, it's so funny that I would be somebody who stood up in front of so many people and led the Dave Ramsey classes because let's just say I had a whole lot of experience of making mistakes and living in debt and just trying to get by. But that does make you believable when people know that you've been there and done that, and had to make the hard decisions, do the hard work and all of that. But you're right, setting yourself up for things. I think it's important that we really acknowledge adaptability and resilience. And I said adaptability first, and I used to think it was the other way around. When I was always in survival mode, I thought it was resilience that mattered. You get knocked down, get up, get knocked down, get up. But now I see that it's adaptability. Yes, be resilient, but also be adaptable. In other words, don't just jump right up the same way again. Maybe look and see what's going on before you pop your head up. Maybe stay down, maybe move to the right, move to the left, make a better decision so you don't keep getting knocked down.
Right.
And I equate that also to living and trying different options, because just because you don't like something doesn't mean you made a bad decision. Or just because you picked up a new hobby and you don't like it doesn't mean you can't try another hobby, and I hear that a lot in people in retirement of, well, I don't know if I want to go do this because I didn't like it when I did that. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? It's like, you want to go fishing, don't go buy the fishing boat, just go hire a fishing guide for 2 days, and see if you like it.
Yeah.
And, it's things along those lines, like maybe don't get a 3-week cruise, get a little 4-day cruise and see if you like it, things along those lines. But I think you and I, at this time in our life, we're excited to try new things. We're looking forward to trying new things. I have a deep respect for people who are afraid to try new things because they got that way because of life experiences. Mm-hmm. But I would imagine that you would ask people to try new things.
Most definitely. Yeah, that goes without saying, Kim. I mean, you never know until you try, right? So, a lot of people who they're closed-minded to some things, and you're right, something they experienced, something they heard, but right, I'm on the other side of that where you never know if you're going to like it. So why not try it? And you're so right with biting off a small piece, just get a taste. You're right. Have somebody take you out fishing. Do that deal. You don't want to know if you want to buy a boat, but go out with a friend. You can rent, you can do so many things. You can rent an RV before you go buy one. I thought I want to drive the world in an RV. Well, maybe I should rent one before I spend, $200,000 on a full size one or something like that. So no, I agree. Give it a try, see what you think about it.
I call that saying yes. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I have, because I've been retired a little over 3 years now, and I have found myself saying yes to things. And if not a total complete yes, then a really strong maybe. And I'll be honest, when people told me to start coaching, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I mean, I was like, I am not doing that. And people are like, you're already doing it. You're already doing it. And then I finally realized one day, I am doing that. And part of coaching is networking
Mhm.
and learning how to do podcasts and YouTube videos and
Yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff, all this stuff. But I do networking. I'm part of a chamber of commerce here. I'm doing all this stuff. And T-Hop, my gosh, my life is so rich now. It's
Mhm.
rich from experience, good and bad, but I have to be honest, mostly good. The relationship. I know people, and you and I've talked about this, how important it is that you have relationships outside of law enforcement.
Yeah.
Even though I serve first responders, I have a wide surface area of non-first responders that feed into me on a daily or weekly basis, and I learn so much from them. I'd like to think it's reciprocal, that they're learning from me also, but T-Hop, it's such a rich life.
Oh
It's
yeah.
such a rich
I can,
life.
I can tell by the glow on your face. No, you can see it, Kim, and I think that's something that's very important, especially for our career path that we chose. And me and you both know that, law enforcement is a beast in itself because of what we have to see on a daily basis. And when I talk to younger officers, man, I am always telling them, you have to unplug from what we do, get out there, whether it's do stuff with your family, your friends. You have to maintain that because our world can drive you crazy. We already know we have a rise in mental illness in this country. You better believe it applies to law enforcement as well, just like military, PTSD. So I really look at life to enjoy it. I look for the pleasures and joys. If you're coming to me with drama, I don't dwell in that world. I don't want to be in that world because that stuff can eat at you internally. We have already had enough stressors on us throughout our career. So I really focus on being happy and drama-free in my life. And I try to teach that to young officers. Find hobbies, find things to get away and unplug from what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Without a doubt. And, a couple of years ago, well, for a long time, I would sit there and say, "Oh, you naive little fool." That's what I would say in the back of my mind. I know how bad life is. I know what happens, because think of it. I mean, especially working the streets back in the 90s, the sheer number of dead children, young teens that you stand there and just everything. And then the people that you've gone to work with and sat in detail, and they're gone by the end of the shift. And we could go on and on and on with that. So we know how bad life is. And we go inside people's homes and we see how horrific life is. But I have realized the last couple of years that there's nothing that can be done about that. We can continue to serve. We can continue to have programs to try to help people. But ultimately, all we can do is control how we think about it. And control is kind of a strong word, but really work towards finding the good in it and finding the good in even the absolute worst situation. And I can tell you personally that has helped me very much in my healing journey that I am on, that when something really bad happens, I have to realize that what I can control and what I can't control.
Oh,
And then, yeah.
that's paramount because again, as well as I know, we have so many people that get just so caught up in the stuff they cannot control. And, I'll see them and I'm like, why are you worried about that? That's something that's completely out of your control. You can't change it. Don't focus so much on that. I think, we got to invoke some God in here, but we have the ability, and I think God gives us the strength to pick and choose not only our battles, but what we worry about. That's something, if you have faith, that God will sort that out at some point in time or other, right? My job is to be a good steward. My job is to go out there and show people what a Christian is supposed to be like, right? I'm not supposed to be this pissed off, angry, upset guy. I'm supposed to show how love can be through just one individual who's totally different from you, from totally different backgrounds. Try to be as fair as I can be, as honest, as loving, a good representative, a good steward, right? I know I'm not perfect, but again, that's what the end goal is. But I'm not going to be concerned about something I cannot change the outcome of it to where it just eats me up. And I see so many people in that mode. And I'm like, why are you worrying about that? You can't change it. It's going to eat you up.
That is something that, again, I could be the poster child for. I can stand in front of large groups and talk about that, because that is exactly, it's like, I was always worried about my boys, right? Always worried about my boys. I was always worried about my officers. And then I was worried about my husband. And it was just like all the time. And yes, I was prepared. Yes, I always planned for the worst case scenario, and I will continue to plan for the worst case scenario. And then I have to let go of it, because worrying about it is not going to make it not happen. Is that even a sentence? Me worrying about it is not going to stop it from happening.
Correct.
If I feel that strongly about something, I need to take an action, right? Not just sit back and worry about it. So there are things that we can do to prevent things. There are things we can do to prepare for things. And then you just have to say a prayer and let it go.
Right.
And when you get that call in the middle, I still, every time the phone rings, I'm still like, are you getting called in? Because that still happens with Todd. I'm still looking for my second phone. I haven't had 2 phones in 3 years now, and I'm still looking for my second phone, thinking that I'm getting called into work. I think a really good example of this happened during the riots. It's really funny, because when we mention the riots here in Mansfield, we'll be talking to people and we'll say, oh, well, during the riots. They're like, riots? What riots? And it's just so shocking that one of the biggest events in our life, one of the main things that changed how I view a lot of people, they don't even know. They're like, what riots? We had riots, but I remember, because, Todd, I had just retired. I didn't have a police radio. I didn't have my city phone. I didn't have my city email. I was just a dumbass wife sitting at home, right? All I had was what was on TV. That's all I had. And I knew that what was on TV is not really what was happening. Right. But I wasn't eating. Todd's at work 10, 12, 18 hours. I wasn't eating. I couldn't sleep. We have a sauna here at the house. That was one of the things we got when I retired, is a sauna. I wouldn't get in the sauna because I was afraid I would be in the sauna and something would happen and I wouldn't be able to get to Dallas quick enough.
Wow.
Yeah, I just want to cry thinking about this. I had gotten to the point that I was like non-functioning. I wasn't doing my workouts. What good did any of that do? That did not do any good. That did not stop the bricks from flying. That did not stop anything from happening. It did not keep any of our officers or any of our property owners, any of our citizens safer, but it made me a wreck. And then I realized one day, I can't do this. My husband needs I wouldn't even get in the shower. I was afraid I would be in the shower and the phone would ring and I have got to get to Dallas. I don't know what I was going to do in Dallas. I have no idea what I was going to do.
Wow, Kim, you had it bad.
Yes, I did. And that just hit me. I'm like, you're a nut, you're a nut. Stop this. Your husband needs to come home to a clean house with fresh food, with a wife who's had a shower that day, But it was such an obvious, it was such a dramatic coming to Jesus moment for me that it changed my life. Because that is when I realized I am no longer a commander. I no longer have any authority or any command, and I cannot make a difference in what happens on the streets of Dallas, but I can make a difference in what happens in my home.
Yeah, that you can.
Yeah, I can be the wife. Yeah, I can be the wife that my husband needs when he comes home.
Now that's special. You just said something, if we go into having spouses and mates, you don't know what your spouse, now unique with you because both of you guys were law enforcement, right? But I say that to say, for anybody that's going to watch this whose spouse or mate is a law enforcement officer, that you don't know what they've been through. You can't do anything about what they've been through, but guess what? When they can get home, you can be a great spouse, you can be a great mate, and you can ease that burden. You could take that stressor, because, you know, in some of those psychological classes, the last thing we know that we want to come home to is somebody that's going to take it back up here. I'm coming home to my safe haven. It should drop. I should be happy, right? So, yeah, what you just said, you want your husband to come home to a great environment, a good wife, make it good for him. Man, that's paramount again.
And think of how bad the poor man had it, because not only was I horrified of what was happening to our city and to our nation, not only was I heartbroken over that, but I was worried about all the policies and procedures, knowing, without getting into politics, knowing how south it was going to go for these poor guys and gals out there on the streets, you know, the officers, the first responders out there. So at the same time, I'm worried about their safety and just about what's happening. They're still in the back of my mind. Oh my God, did you do this report? Did you have your MDT on? Did you have this? Did you do this? Blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, all this. And guess what? Nobody needs that.
No,
You know?
no.
Nobody needs that.
Yeah.
That was a pivotal, life-changing moment for me and in our marriage, I think. But you and I have talked about this before, about how for so many years, all it was, oh, just make it home. Just come home. Just come home. And I can tell you now that yes, coming home is very, very important. But all those years that Todd and I climbed into bed and just went into the next day, you know, just said, oh, we're home safe, restart the next day. We're going to deal with all that stuff.
Mhm.
We're going to deal with all those critical incidences. We're going to deal with all that stuff that's happened, because you don't ever not deal with it. You're going to deal with it one day, one way or the other, you know. I believe, just personally, that a lot of that also comes down to, what am I responsible for? What is mine? What can I do anything about? And then just be aware what's happening with the other person. And it's hard. It's very, very, very hard. And we laugh, we joke around about it, but we're like, oh my gosh, our marriage survived this. You know, our marriage survived me being a lieutenant in the department and him being in SWAT the whole entire time, sometimes out on the same events.
And Kim, you already know, so many of our marriages don't survive.
Yeah.
So you guys are part of that small percentage that made it through, with both of y'all being in law enforcement and all the challenges that, you know, that involves. So, you know, my hat's off to you. You know, you guys, you stuck it out, and we all know there's no perfect marriage. There are ups and downs through this thing all day long, but it's how you deal with those ups and downs, and we all go through them, right?
Yeah. I can tell you that I think there's a lot of stuff that I wasn't even aware of, because you're just making it on your, you know, you just make it on your own. And then your spouse is making it on their own. So imagine when you have the law enforcement spouse and the civilian spouse, you know, how the law enforcement spouse isn't sharing a whole lot with their civilian spouse. I think that there's law enforcement spouses that they're doing the same thing, but there's also an extra layer of, there's nothing else to call it but shit, an extra layer that's covering it that we're going to have to work through. I love what the associations are doing now. I love what the department's doing now. I love that there are organizations out there. Todd and I have done some couples, what is it called? Communication skills with the Taya and Chris Kyle Foundation and stuff. And, you know, sometimes just learning to listen to what the person is saying, not what you're hearing, but what the person is saying, is huge.
Right.
And I think that's where the double law enforcement issues come in, because you just automatically assume that you know what they're saying, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh, Kim.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but you don't. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's very interesting. It's very interesting.
It really is.
Is there anything else that you would like to say? Anything that you would like to share, a request to our brothers and sisters in the first responder world?
Well, I'll comment on two things, right? Preparation for retirement. So I'll start there first. It's never too early to prepare, guys. Never too early. Many years ago when I got on this department, one of my trainers was named Donnie Chapman. And one of the first things old Don Chapman told me, he's like, young Terrance, I wasn't T-Hop at that time. Young Terrance, you getting that 401k yet? I'm like, well, you know what? I said, actually, I have one from my the job I had before here. I worked at Baylor and I rolled it over to this one. He says, that's probably the best thing you could do. But I learned that early on, but it was good to have a trainer to reiterate that, because so many folks are clueless, right, when they come here. And part of that financial piece is, if you can start that as soon as possible, you best be doing it, because we are so fortunate here in our careers to have 4 buckets of money, right? We have 401k, 457, a pension, and drop. That is so unique. And if you work that system even halfway right, you'll be good and able to retire very soon. So that's very good. If you haven't experienced Dave Ramsey, which you was a part of, you, Vince Weddington, Mike, I mean, I can just go down a list of guys who taught debt free. And again, I've been there. I lived that life where I paid everything off. And then of course I built my retirement home. But anyway, but those should be some of your goals in life, especially you young officers. I get it. You come and you get out of college and you got a decent salary and you want to get that brand new car and those jet skis and boats and all that. Look at that debt and, pace yourself. There's no hurry to accumulate all that stuff so fast. So be smart about how you do that. With that being said, extra jobs, right? Don't make your extra jobs necessary for your life and finances. You should be designing your life to live off that salary. The extra jobs are extra cream, right? That's extra. Don't live where you have to have that extra job. And of course, we've both seen people who that becomes their life because they've built the house, cars, boats, and all that, and they have to have that money. So change your thought process as it relates to that. Finally, something we haven't talked about to me is what's also extremely important, Kim, is your medical condition and watching out for your health, because we have just seen Chris Jackson just passed away last week, right? I've dealt with getting his crying, his daughter and his mom here with the BPA, flying them here. Before that, Daryl Gary passed away. We're burying a retiree to Thursday, 1,000 badge number, I forget his name. So, and that list goes on and on, right? That we've experienced this. So folks, take your health seriously, right? Go to the doctor, find out where you're at, start eating better, right? These things that consume us combined with the stress, some form of physical fitness. And you don't have to be this gym rat. What people don't understand is all you got to do is walk 30 minutes a day, right? It is nothing that is just so overwhelming that you cannot do. So it's something as simple as walking 30 minutes a day. Get it started, make it a habit in your life, because that's the other big thing we're going to deal with. And that's going to be your health and medical issues.
Yes. I love it. You know what? When you decide that you don't want to do the consulting thing anymore, you can come and be a retirement life coach with me, because that's exactly the stuff that we talk about. And we talk about, that we do have a lot of things in our world, in our first responder world, that really punch us hard, that really, they're like multipliers. So what might be a little issue for somebody else, you add our stress and our crazy schedules and our years of not getting any sleep and all that. And it really does pack a heavy punch against us. But it is never, ever too late to start making improvements. We really do see some fast improvements in our health. I love that you mentioned that. Getting out, somebody goes, well, I can't walk 30 minutes. Well, walk 2 minutes, right? Yeah, so I do my retirement life coaching, then I do life coaching also. And my life coaching is for high performing women women who tend to be under a lot of stress, but are also very successful. And so they're very used to having really big goals, right? Really big goals and obtaining big things in life. And sometimes it just gets overwhelming. And we just have to have that conversation of, when you're paying that $40,000 car off, which is not expensive now, but $40,000 car, you're not just tomorrow saying, oh, here's the 40,000. No, you're paying it off quickly because, we're Dave Ramsey people. You're paying it off, paying it off, paying it off. But it's those incremental saves that help you get to that $40,000 sooner, right? It's those small little things like not going through the drive-through, not buying a new pair of shoes, paying off one bill and having the extra money to use it on for the next payment. It's those small things. Somebody who wants to walk 30 minutes, you don't have to go out and walk 30 minutes right now. Go out and walk 5 minutes. Yeah. And then next week, walk 10 minutes. And guess what? If you never take that first 5 minutes, you will never get to 30 minutes. Yeah. But if you take that first 5 minutes, you got a pretty good chance you're going to get to the 30 minutes. Yeah. Blood pressure and stuff. And a lot of the retirees talk about how expensive healthcare is. Oh, it is very expensive. I pay a bloody fortune to have health insurance through the city, right?
Right.
Because of that, I don't want to have to use it. I don't want to have to use my health insurance. Yeah. Do all those things that you can do to prevent that. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very important, extremely important.
So the big question that Todd always likes us to ask our guests is, how does T-Hop want to be remembered?
Hey, thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. And, Todd, man, I'll tell you what, I don't know your husband very well, but I know who he is and know him and all that stuff, man. That dude just has one of the most even keel demeanors. I mean, he is just as smooth as could be. So I kind of always admired that about him, man. I mean, you get people so worked up here, worked up there, and he's just, I kind of love that. I look at people from a distance all the time. So I want to say that. So how do I want to be remembered? Man, I have not put a lot of thought into it, but probably somebody who was, somebody who was trustworthy, somebody who was committed to doing what needed to be done, hopefully viewed as somebody that treated people right, well. We want to treat people the way we want to be treated. So I tried not to get caught up in all the rumors and what people said. I tried to be a good steward, and I've had a good run. I mean, I don't think I've created many enemies, but then again, I got into a game where when you start dealing with these associations and become presidents, right, people will fly off for whatever reason. But somebody that was a good representative of the police department, right? And then I'll, even though I'm not an outwardly super religious person, but hopefully I've been a good steward to the man above, right? And represented him well. So that's pretty much it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I want to thank you again for your time today. And I want to thank everything I said earlier about how you served the officers and the department and the citizens. I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for always having your stuff together when I was one of the commanders over an event, Yeah. And I didn't say it earlier, but it is important that to be said that, when people called you or when we called you, sometimes like in not a panic, but in an intense moment, you listened and you answered. And if you didn't have the answer, you'll go, I'll get back with you. And you did. And that goes a long way in life. So I really should have added that to the introduction. Thank you for that. Thank you very much for that. It is always good to be able to trust the people that you're having to work with.
Right, for sure. No, thanks, Kim. I mean, you've said some very nice things, and I appreciate it. Again, I enjoyed working with yourself and the command staff, and totally enjoyed my role. Sometimes we get caught up in egos and stuff, right? I knew my job was to put this together and hand it off and let you guys command it. I mean, I did have a lot of responsibility and authority to do things, but again, I always knew my place. And if you're the commander, hey, if I've got to take that to you for a decision, that's exactly what my role is to be. So thanks. My hat's off to you and everything that you've done and what you're doing now.
Thank you so much. And for everybody watching and listening, we will have your contact information in the notes. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, they can reach out to you through your contact information, or they can get a hold of you through me because I always have my information available. Thanks
Sweet.
so much.
You got it. Thanks, Kim.